There is no leaders in that Tottenham Football Club. There are some fantastic players. When you talk about leaders and how important they are in the modern game, there is none. And when I look at the opponents today, Aston Villa, you talk about Martinez, you talk about McGinn, you talk about Konza, you talk about Tielemans. There's so many leaders and characters in that team.
Well, it was a bad week, to say the least, for Tottenham, who, after suffering a 4-0 loss to Liverpool in the second leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final this week, then just fell on Sunday 2-1 to Aston Villa in the fourth round of the FA Cup. Mathys Tel scored a stoppage-time goal, but it wasn't enough in the end. Here's a look now at where Tottenham stand across all competitions. They're 14th place in the Premier League, eliminated in the fourth round by Aston Villa today, eliminated in the semi-final by Liverpool. But in Europa League, they are through to the round of 16, so some hope there. But either way, this is not going to be good for Ange Postecoglou, who, I don't know, is his future hanging in the balance? Let's ask our friend Nigel-Reo Coker, who joins us now to break this one down. Nige, tough day for Tottenham. What did you make of the match, and what does this mean in the big picture for Ange Postecoglou?
Well, for me, it was a game of two halves, Ali. First half, it was all Aston Villa. Tottenham players could not lay a glove on any Aston Villa player. There was no real competitiveness, no tackles going in, no making it difficult. Aston Villa had their way with Tottenham, especially in that midfield area in the first half. And really and truly, if one thing was Aston Villa were guilty of, is not being clinical enough and taking their chances. Jacob Ramsey obviously did get the goal, but also had another good opportunity to get another one. Complete dominance in the first half by Aston Villa. Second half, Spurs showed a bit more life, a bit more desire to compete, putting more tackles in now, making it a bit more difficult for Aston Villa. And as they pressed and gained a bit more in the game, Aston Villa got the second goal, and you'd have to say from then it was a bit of game over. But Tel did get one back for Tottenham and made it a little bit of a nervy finish for Aston Villa. But with the experience and leaders that they've got at that football club, they know how to see a game out, which is something that's obviously lacking in Tottenham for so many different things. And when you look at that whole Tottenham performance, again, it's the same old story. You know, not really much moved from the performance at Anfield. Not too many positives you can look from. And the one thing I would say that is a positive for Tottenham, and I said it last time, was the youngsters that they have in this club coming through are probably the only positive thing to smile at as a Tottenham fan. They've got a real good group of youngsters coming through. And hopefully the situation that they're in is only going to make them stronger and become better players and a lot more resilient. And it doesn't take its toll on them. And I think one more thing I'd say that's evident in that Tottenham side today, Ali, is there's a lack of leadership. There is no leaders in that Tottenham Football Club. There are some fantastic players. When you talk about leaders and how important they are in the modern game, there is none. And when I look at the opponents today, Aston Villa, you talk about Martinez, you talk about McGinn, you talk about Konza, you talk about Tielemans. There's so many leaders and characters in that team that can make a difference in you winning football matches and winning competitions.
It feels like there's always something, Nige, with Spurs. If it's not one thing, it's another. We just saw the graphic here. We know Ange said, I always win in my second season. They really only have the Europa League now to count on. Where do you think they go from here?
It's a tough one. I think it's not just one thing. I think Ange has to share a lot of the blame and responsibility. And again, it's about Daniel leaving. You talk about players and the club and the structure. Every manager that's been there that's been successful struggled to be successful at Tottenham and have gone and been successful elsewhere. Even serial managers. You talk about Conte when he was at Tottenham and what he said, and now you look at what he's doing with a Napoli side that no one had to be leading the Serie A and leading the race to winning the Serie A title. And that's the same manager who's at Tottenham, Jose Mourinho, second in the Turkish league right now. There's so many managers that have been there and struggled to win at Tottenham. So it's a combination of things. I think with Ange right now, yes, he's had injuries. He keeps on going about the injuries, but injuries is part of football. You know, we've seen injuries from a long time, from whether you're a player, playing the game or going to management and coaching, injuries is part of it. And there's other teams in the Premier League who are dealing with injuries, but have got on with it, and have still managed to be competitive. And one example I'd use has been fantastic is Bournemouth. They've had to deal with a lot of injuries with first-team players, but they've still stayed competitive. I think it's the manner in what we're seeing Tottenham perform and lose. They don't seem to be playing the typical Ange way. They're not as gun-ho and adventurous as we have. And it seems like the players are losing confidence. I think that's the biggest thing. They're losing confidence. They're not competing. Very similar performance, in my opinion, to how they played at Anfield, but probably showed a bit more bite and character in the second half. And again, the only bright sparks for Tottenham right now is the youngsters that are coming through and playing.
Nige, where's your confidence in the direction of Tottenham under Ange Postecoglou? Getting out of two finals in just a couple of days' time, or in two competitions, excuse me, is not really a vote of confidence in the leadership of the manager. Is that how you feel, or do you think it's more on the players?
I think there's an element where the players have to take responsibility and doing the basics of competing, of closing your man down, putting tackles in, making it difficult for your opponent. That's something that the players have to do. And I would say that I haven't seen that enough, the desire from the Tottenham players in the past two games, in their loss to Liverpool and obviously their loss today. So that's something that the manager has to take blame in and trying to really motivate their players, the lineup that he picks. The difficult thing that Ange Postecoglou did was go out there and say and put it out there that I always win in my second season. So you put your target on your back automatically. Now all they've got left is the Europa League, because they've got no chance in the Premier League of making European places. So it's the Europa League now. And for me, I don't personally believe that Tottenham are one of the best teams in the Europa League. I think there's other teams that are much more better. And now we're getting to the business end of the competition, that all these teams, when you talk about whether it's Roma, Lazio, Fenerbahce, Porto, all these teams now, if they know they're going to play at Tottenham or Manchester United, they're going to raise their standard. And I feel that most of these teams are capable to beat Tottenham when it comes down to it. So now it's about planning for the future. Daniel Levy has a big decision to make. He's already getting a lot of scrutiny in England in basically how he has ran Tottenham for such a long period of time, in the recruiting of players, the culture that's there. So I would say whatever decision they come to, if it is to move on from Ange Postecoglou, the next manager that gets hired at Tottenham will probably be the biggest manager or the most important manager that Daniel Levy has the opportunity to hire next.
If you were going to take a guess, you think he makes it or you think he gets sacked?
I personally don't see the point in sacking Ange Postecoglou right now. I think it is what it is. You made your bed, you got to lay in it. Yes, injuries may have been a little concerning, and I would say only that because of the two centre-backs, and centre-backs has been a problem for them at Tottenham, and it's vital to have a good centre-back pairing when you're competing in the Premier League and other things. So I just think, for me, you just have to stick with it right now, because if you do sack Ange Postecoglou, who do you go after? Who's next? Who's going to want to leave their club to go to Tottenham right now with the situation and condition that they're in right now? So you might as well just let the season ride out. As you said, he's still in the Europa League, so maybe they could miraculously win that. And, as people make jokes, that could be actual very Spursy thing to do, that they go and win the Europa League. I'm not saying it's not possible, but there are better teams out there than them, in my opinion. But they still have a chance to maybe win that competition. So see out to the end of the season, and whatever decision you make, if a new manager comes in for a new direction, make sure it's the right hire. But there are some managers that I think are highly regarded, in my opinion, who deserve an opportunity at Tottenham.
Nigel, it was a fun weekend in the FA Cup because we saw teams like Liverpool, Spurs, and Chelsea all get knocked off. Arsenal, they were already eliminated coming into this round. We talk all the time about the magic of the cup and seeing some of these smaller teams go out and win. Do you think, with how things have played out up to this point, this is the year that we'll see a smaller team come out victorious again?
The magic of the cup, Ali, you've got to keep believing. I think for me, everyone will be talking about that Liverpool losing to Plymouth Argyle. This is Liverpool that's top of the Premier League table, top of the Champions League table, on course to win so many things, and then they lose to Plymouth Argyle, who are bottom of the Championship and have conceded so many goals. I think the most goals maybe in English football at the moment this season, and they beat Liverpool. So that is the magic of the cup, and that will bring belief in a lot of other clubs. And it's fantastic to see. I mean, I think there is a possibility, because we've seen so many Premier League sides face each other this round, that maybe one or two of the smaller clubs could maybe go far in this year's competition.